All right, so let's come back to our state, Delta State, and let's trace a little bit of antecedents. Ahead of the 2023 election, Delta State, earlier you talked about the army built by Chief James Ibori. A lot of dynamics were thrown into the mix ahead of 2023 election, and some would say Delta State was reasonably polarized. Others might disagree. How would you react to the politics ahead of 2023 in Delta State?
Well, the politics was politics. People showed interest. My friend and my brother, David Edevie, wanted to be governor. Peter Mrapa wanted to be governor. I didn't support the fact that anybody from the South, referring particularly to Senator James Manager, who is my leader, and Kingsley Otuaro was deputy governor, should even have contested in the first place. But all the other people, James Agoye, all the other people from Central, which to my mind, because of the structure that has been put in place, were qualified to run. We all supported different people. I may not have agreed with the style of how the incumbent governor emerged, but he emerged. And I tell people that the biggest lesson I have learned is that if God does not want something, it will not happen. That is the biggest lesson that I've learned. Whatever you use to get there, the Almighty has a way of stopping it. We have seen people who won elections and they didn't get sworn in. And so I see, that is how I see the lesson from this whole process, because after the support for David Edevie, it was still very divided. The state was still very, very divided. So what I would say is that I think politics just played itself. Politics played itself, people made choices. It's only in Nigeria you see that people are punished for their choices. And most times, what you also find out is that people suffer because they don't have a second address. And so the tendency for those in power to punish you by starving you, either of appointment, either of contracts, patronage, is always high. And if we don't run away from that kind of politics, it will be a cycle that will never stop. And you find that your best hands are probably affected because they speak their minds. So I think that it was politics, and people just made their opinions known by their choices. And when people make their opinion, look, it's only in Nigeria where you see a 40-year-old adult who has attained a level of maturity being referred to as a child. And that 40-year-old is Prime Minister in Canada, Prime Minister in France, President in America. It's only here. And so I think that we must begin to give preference to a lot of capacity and listen to ourselves. Politics is about consensus building. And I think that as we move on, we must listen. Its dynamic is changing. There was a time in this country where carrying of ballot boxes was the in thing. Am I right? Today that's not the in thing. They have gone more digital. So it will evolve. It will get better, and people's voices will be heard at the right time. So I think that what happened in 2023 was politics. Sometimes it's you win some, you lose some. It's tough, it can be painful, it can also be sweet. And once you take it that way, you move on. The former governor lost in Delta. Lost all the people shouting anti-party in PDP. Most of them supported Labour Party. Most of the leaders you see. So how did he lose? Somebody was governor for 8 years. I don't know if you understand. His highest votes should have come from here. His highest votes should have come from here. It's just politics, and we pray that our minds evolve to, it's politics.
Speaking of, DUUG was active in the political affairs of that time. What has become of DUUG? In our vintage observation, DUUG was seen to be specifically of different strides. There were those who were in support of, well, I say presidential candidate that were seen siding with APC, and there were those who stayed back with PDP. How would you describe the power play of politics in DUUG at the time, and what has become of DUUG today?
There was no power play. The DUUG was born out of the need to basically look at issues in Delta and see how we can propagate very strongly the Edevi agenda. And at one point, I'm sure you heard all the rumors, oh, David did not have supporters and all of that, and we laughed. And we said, no, I mean, we're not children. You get to a stage in your life, you say it the way it is. And we said, no, David has a lot of supporters, a lot of supporters. For somebody who had the votes he had, I'm sure they were shocked in the primaries. But the reality is that DUUG was born out of that situation. We believed in Edevi's agenda and his program, and we felt that we were best suited to sell it to Deltans and Nigerians and the world at large. So myself and the current chairman of NEDC, Chedu Ebe, and a lot of other people, began to come together and see how we can. But there were many tendencies, but all get towards achieving the modernization of Delta agenda. We read the documents, we believed in documents, and so we began to, propagate that. Yes, in DUUG, a lot of tendencies, but basically just the APC and the PDP tendencies. For instance, like I told you earlier, when I voted for the PDP for presidential election, and I did that without any apologies, while some others voted for Labour Party, some voted for Asiwaju and all of that. So we are Deltans, importantly, and we believe that our local community, which is Delta, can be better based on the agenda that you present to us. DUUG today is still strong. We are not making noise. We are watching. We're looking at the situation in the country. We meet from time to time. We discuss, by and large. But very soon also, we'll begin to make public statements. But we are meeting. We're talking to ourselves. 1 or 2 people have left us. 2, 3, and 4 people have joined us. It's like that. It's like that. I used to, may so rest in peace, Saemo Sieto used to tell us that in politics there are 3 things. If you don't get patronage of contract, if you don't get patronage of appointment, or you are not consulted on issues, then you're not in the politics. And for some of us, all 3 are as a result of choice. Some people are not interested in any of them. Some are, but on a different platform. So DUUG is a focused, respectable platform. Even though we are not very vocal today, but we are just there watching.
That brings me to the conversation of the morning. Delta State, in our earlier conversation, you talked about the country almost drifting into one-party state. Similar voices are even beginning to be heard in Delta State. The politics that is being played, you must have heard of the plausible rumor of the possibility of the state governor defecting to the APC, and a whole lot of that have heated up the polity. In your understanding of the politics of Delta State, do you envisage that such could happen? Do you think there is a myth to that?
In politics, is anything impossible? Nothing is impossible. I hear also from the grapevine that Ned Nwoko is going to APC. So you can imagine Ned Nwoko and Peter Oboshi in the same party. Yeah, you know, see, life is dynamic. The governor is a member of PDP, but he's the leader of the party. And if he chooses to go to APC tomorrow, there's not much the followers can do. They will join him. I mean, he'll be able to present his case and tell them why, and they'll join him. The only thing is that when he goes to APC, the question that will be asked is, this party that you were abusing during campaign. But you know, Nigeria, nobody really cares about all of that. It becomes history. Yeah. It becomes history. The reality, from what I know, is that if the governor, Elder Sheriff of Borowori, decides to go to APC, there's not much people can do. They will go with him to support him. And the reason may be out of fear. Out of fear. And you see what happened in Edo State. It's been contested hotly that Aswa Godalo won that election. And you don't want a situation where that kind of thing happens to you. So the point I would make is that, first of all, PDP was too late in coming out with a response. It showed that there's some truth, an element of truth in it. But the other question will be, what will be APC's reaction? How will they take it? Because I know that they're also fighting among themselves to produce a governor. I, for one, because Delta South is waiting to have it, I will not support another Urobo man to be governor. That's the reality. But coming to the subject you have asked, I think that the governor is talking to people, and with time, it will be whatever is happening in secret. The pregnancy will come up and the child will be born. But I think nobody showed nothing to. Obaseki moved from APC to PDP and took the structures with him. Nothing happened and won the election. It's happened across Nigeria. It won't be new if he does it. But I know he will be consulting a lot of people, particularly former governors and all of that. So when the time comes, when the time comes, you know, Nigerians and Deltans particularly will not be lazy people. Yeah. There will be talk, there will be discussions. Leaders across the state will weigh the options, look at the issues, and critically examine them. And the decision will be taken. And when it's taken, it will all come down to its politics.
You talked about COVID, you talked about the need for distribution of power in Delta State, like it has always been the zoning thing, like you talked about, which is likely going to be seen as a major factor in deciding what happens in election 2027. How do you see that coloring the power play in Central and the other senatorial zones?
When you say coloring now, so the average, I mean, politics will always play its parts. People, you have different kinds of people. People who believe that party, I mean, whoever my party brings, I go with, irrespective of the tribe. We have buckets of people with different orientation. But I am giving a more global outlook from my discussions with ordinary citizens, leaders across the state, particularly in my senatorial district, which is Delta South. There's going to be a lot of apathy against a fresh person who may want to do an 8-year tenure, irrespective of whether you even want to sign an agreement with us, because you can just get to that time of elections and you say that, oh, something happened. Right. The Lord said, God did not say, the Holy Spirit did not, you know, and then you know, we lie a lot with religion. Yeah. But the truth is that that is the general perception that I get, and that there's this laid-back attitude of constituents towards somebody else come in to, except the governor does woefully bad, then that will be a matter. But I think that people are saying, and I'm sure it also comes to Delta North, because what you see in Delta North is they're waiting for South to finish, and then people calculate that deep, So I think that will color, and like I said, except this administration does poorly. If it doesn't do poorly, then there may be no reason to, whether you're in PDP or APC, particularly in the South, to bring in somebody new.
Speak to the conversations in the polity in the state. There have been clusters of impression about governance. In your estimation, in your understanding of politics and governance, how will you describe Delta State in the last 2 years, the last one?
You want an honest response. I've been out of politics in Delta State in the last 2 years. I only recently began conversations, but I will not be a good judge because I've tried to block my ears, block my eyes from what's been happening here. I didn't support the governor, who I don't have any issues with, but just didn't support him. But my leaders and I have had conversations. His Excellency Senator Kowa and I we've had conversations, and we're just now beginning to get involved in the politics of PDP. I had taken a leave to try to attend to my businesses, and then at some point I was appointed DG of Algon, so there was a lot of work to do. And at some point towards the end of last year, I resigned my appointment over the place. The long story, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to operate in that kind of toxic environment. So I'm just getting back, and I'm not sure that I'm the best person to give a verdict on the last 2 years. But you know that I hold no prisoners. As we engage in the politics of our people, and ensuring that their welfare is at the topmost of government's concerns, we will speak out where there are issues. You can be sure of that. You can be sure.
I would like to get your insight on the political atmosphere in Edo State, where you've been in Algon, you've been Algon Vice Chairman, apart from being the Chairman of Algon Delta State, you've been Algon Vice Chairman, you've been DG Algon. The situation we found in Edo State, where the government, the entire local government chairman were sacked by possibly the State House of Assembly. Where do you situate that? Do you see that as positive politics?
It's toggery. That's toggery. What's happening in Edo State is toggery. And it's disappointing. Now, that's a state that has Senator Shomole. And I'll tell you why Senator Shomole particularly, because it's hypocrisy. I anchored a program last year where the Deputy Speaker convened stakeholders on this local government issue. And I asked him a pointed question: where do you stand on local government autonomy? And his position that day is not the same position as to what the governor is doing today, because he cannot also say he doesn't have some form of influence on the governor, who was also a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria before he became governor. Now, even if you don't concede that the local government chairmen are thieves, the House of Assembly asks you to bring your income and expenditure. They were elected chairmen, elected by the people, irrespective of any form of election. There was an election by law. You ask them to submit their documentation to probe them in one breath. In the other breath, you say they are removed from office. Who does that? So why do they conduct elections? Why do they have councillors? Why do they have a legislative arm? Why do they take their budget to the legislative arm? And then where a chairman refuses to go, you send talks there. Or you forcefully ask the legislative arm to impeach them. What is happening in those states is unacceptable. It's very, very unacceptable. And I'll expect that, you see, when he's not in your house, the madman is called a madman until he's your brother. What is happening in those states is not politics. It's pure thuggery. And I expect that Samson Osagie, the Attorney General, will be able to advise His Excellency properly. There's a way to get these things done. You accuse me of stealing. You invite me. I'll come. I'll present my books. The law says that if I'm found guilty, I'll leave. Find me guilty first before you remove me. And you see, these are the challenges that we face. And that's why the local governments are not productive. There's no meaningful development in many local governments because of this fear and this kind of attitude. I don't want to use very strong words, but I think the governor took the wrong steps. People around him need to advise him. And the earlier he understands, even you see how desperate it is. Some local government chairmen are now decamping to APC. So the minute they decamp, what happens? They are no longer thieves. That is the challenge we find in Edo State. And that's the kind of politics that must be stopped in this country. And that's why you find that the local government is not moving forward.
For I wind this down, and for want of time, as brief as it could be with that, Delta is known for its culture in politics. Do you see Delta?
So which is a culture?
For instance, the rotation arrangement could be seen as part of the culture.
Yes.
I don't think Delta is one of the few PDP states still standing, and people have always believed that, give or take, PDP still has a way of harmonizing and galvanizing the politicians in Delta State, because there's hardly any politician in any other political party that we will not trace his antecedent to the People's Democratic Party in Delta State.
Sure.
How would you look at Delta still bringing the best out of its political culture going forward or ahead of 2027?
Well, you know, when you talk about political culture, I think there's a way we all rally around each other to get things done. I think if I understand your question, is how do we bring the best? How do we bring the best out? In elections, you don't go to people's houses and beg them to contest elections. People present themselves, and from the lots that are presented, you make your choices. Nothing stops anybody in 2027 in PDP, assuming the governor does not move to APC, from contesting, even though I will expect that PDP will give him the right of first refusal. But that somebody also wants to contest in PDP against the governor should not be an opportunity for people to try to destroy the person. They sell their manifesto, they sell their program, and choices will be made. So I think that it's still the same process, system. There will be primaries. We don't know if the Electoral Act will be amended. You know, the last one, there were challenges. Challenges to the extent that only the ad hoc delegates voted in that election. We had hoped that the general, in fact, many people attribute their loss because the ad hoc delegates are usually the governor's delegates. Oh, that's a fact. Because he just looks for his friends and gives them the slots to produce the people. So basically, that is the situation we find ourselves. So, but politics must be robust, and even with people seeing that clear danger, they still want to show interest because they want to serve, and for whatever reason. So I think that it won't change much, but I also expect that people don't sit in their houses and complain. There must be participation, and I expect that people participate very seriously in the process of politics and electing their leaders.
Right, so you have known Chief James Ibori. You have described the former governor, Senator Okowa, as a boss. Do you see these two playing across each other in 2027?
You need to expatiate your question so that I can properly answer that question.
It is,
or maybe more direct.
All right. Some people had the impression that the power play between Governor Okowa and his former boss, Chief James Ibori, colored the politics of 2023. Some people have seen Ibori sharing so much affinity and relationship with the president, who eventually was his classmate as governor, and others have seen Governor Okowa as still holding sway in the state. Do you still see the impact of these two? It was obvious Chief James Ibori had a candidate, Governor Okowa had a candidate.
There's a difference between a candidate and a preference.
In all of this, do you still see what happened in 2023 rearing its head in 2027?
Answer that question in this way, and I think that a lot of people need to understand this, and the earlier the better. Senator Okowa is an active politician. Chief James Ibori is the father, anybody can argue with themselves, of politics in Delta. So he's the grandfather to some of us. And today, I can tell you without reservation that he's an elder statesman. And let me tell you a story. Of the 3 presidential candidates, he was close to 3 of them. Very close to 3 of them. Don't forget, his challenges in this country started because of his support for Atiku in 2003. He's very close to Atiku. He's extremely also very close to Peter Obi. Do you understand what I'm saying? And of course, like you said, Asiwaju, today in Nigeria, Chief Ibori is not playing partisan politics because he has friends everywhere, whether in PDP, in APC, in Labour, in SDP, in NNPP, because Kwankwaso is also his very good friend. And so I think that is the role he's playing. And, you know, coming back to your, and trying to paraphrase your question, Chief Ibori did not have a candidate. He may have had a preference. And he didn't hide it, without any apologies to anybody. Everybody's entitled to a preference, but he didn't have a candidate. That's the reality. And what happened was politics. Like I said, you win some, you lose some. Doesn't diminish who he is and what he is to us in Delta. Deltans love him. I'm sure you don't want a test of popularity because when he appears in functions, it is not choreographed. People naturally love him. He has paid his dues. Dr. Odwan has also paid his dues, same as Senator Okowa. So there's this trying to pitch them, and all. Politics was played in 2023, and I like to leave it at that. The man is not sleeping, he's not keeping anybody in his mind. I'm talking about Chief Ibori. He's gone on with his life, he's enjoying himself. He's a grandfather. Anywhere he enters, doors are open. He wants to help as many people as he can. He's part of trying to help the president, do better. And so I don't think that at his level, and that's where a lot of politicians should learn from. Being an elder statesman is not just saying it with your mouth, by your actions too. And a lot of people need to graduate into that level of politics, because that is what becomes destructive at the grassroots here. So I don't think himself and Senator Kowa, will they have any? No, they don't. I don't think so.
Thank you so much, Honorable Tiako, for giving us this time. We hope to have more of these conversations with you now that you will be having more time with us in Delta State, having resigned there.
No, I've started a consulting firm, a consulting and recruitment firm, Crest Point. So I'm still in Abuja. Maybe when it's election, I'll come and cast my votes. Of course, I will come and cast my votes and campaign when that time is here. But I'll spend more time, come home once in a while to attend to. I'm still a traditional chief. My church activities are also still here. So I'm a community person. So you'll be seeing me more often.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you.